Hello and welcome to the Talking Donkey. My name is Ryan and with me as always is Senno.
G'day everyone. This week the donkeys are going to the movies. That's right, we're going to review the movie, the latest offering from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, The Eternals. Last week I forced Ryan to go to the cinema with me and we watched The Eternals together with, I think, 3 other people.
Yeah. Not another Marvel movie.
So even though the cinemas are back open, there were not many people around to watch this. We are, in a rural town, but it's not that small.
Yeah, that's right. So for every movie that we're going to review, we want to give you some basic information. No spoilers, but some information for us to provide you with our review. And so we're going to talk about some of the big ideas that the movie brings up. We'll let you know if there's or whatever less kid-friendly stuff will appear. We have a particular kind of rating.
It's a patented talking donkeys rating system is what we have. So we're going to rate 3 of the key aspects of the film that most parents, I think, in particular, will be wanting to know to bring their kids. And we're going to rate it for nudity and sex, and we're calling that a Game of Thrones rating.
Yep.
From 0 to 3, Game of Thrones. We're going to have a violence rating, and we're calling that the Wick rating, the John Wick rating. Yep. And so it'll have 0 to 3 Wicks. And we've also got a blue language rating, a sweariness rating, and we're calling that Gordon's after the famous celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay.
Yes.
So 0 to 3 Gordons for the blue language, and so we'll use those to rate it so that if you're if parents are watching, they can pick up on that.
Yep.
I guess the basic information is the movie goes for 2 hours and 37 minutes, I think, something like that. And I made Ryan watch every single moment of that, including the 2 post-credit scenes. So, how are you feeling after that, Ryan?
I'm here. Let's say I made it. We made it together, I think.
We did, and we'll explain what that means. I think sounds a bit ominous already. We'll explain what that means in a little bit. But how do we go through the ratings? So we've told you what the ratings are, but Ryan, tell us. So how many Game of Thrones rankings did this movie get?
The Eternals gets a 1 Game of Thrones rating.
Yep, so why is that?
Because this is particular for this. This is special, right? This movie has the first Marvel sex scene in it.
Yeah. Entirely unnecessary. You have to say, Marvel sex scene. It had no connect. It was. I've got to say, I was shocked. Not because it was not a bad sex scene, right? So you see a little bit of bare back. Yeah. And you hear some that sort of stuff. And that's about it. So it's not terribly graphic. But it added nothing to the story. And I was shocked just because Marvel had a sex scene. I thought, that is just bizarre.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of families, Marvel has been a family-friendly franchise. They've sent their kids to it. And so for parents, you need to be warned. We've given this a 1, perhaps a half to 1 Game of Thrones. It's a pretty moderate sex scene, but it is a sex scene. And so if you've got little kiddies and you'd normally taken them to Marvel movies, perhaps you've stopped doing that when their rankings got up with the violence. But if you have, then perhaps not this one, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think the only thing that it might
Put your hand across their eyes.
Yeah. And I think the other thing it may add, and I know we disagree with it, but the idea that it shows them that they're really in love, that that all that kind of stuff.
Because you need to be having sex to show that. So who knows? Yeah. I thought it was entirely unnecessary for Marvel. They've shown the love stuff without that in the past. But anyway, they've broken new ground, so good.
Yes.
Good for them.
Oh, yeah.
Violence rating.
Violence, we're giving this a 1.5 Wicks.
Yeah.
Because there is violence, but all of it's very minimal. So there's no gore. There's very little blood.
There's gore, but it's alien gore.
Okay,
and so
sure.
there's kind of So
like purple bluey blood or
greeny,
something.
bluey, purpley something, but not. There's no. I think humans do die. There's a couple of humans who die.
There's a couple of deaths in the movie, but
it's not. Yeah, it's 1 to 1.5 weeks, I think, on the violence. Yeah,
that's right.
And the last one is the Gordons, Gordon Ramsay ranking.
So there's not much. We're getting this as 0.5 Gordons.
Yeah. There's a bit. It felt like I think you said, didn't you, that there was a budget of swears.
They went. You can only say this word this amount of times, and it has to be. You throw it in.
Yeah.
And so. It felt a bit random.
Yeah, I put I quoted Crocodile Dundee and had a swear in it. I bleeped it out in one of our earlier episodes. So that's what we do in the Talking Donkey.
Yeah.
But yes, it did feel like they had a kind of a number of swears they could put in that were moderate swears, and then they just kind of judiciously mapped them out through the story so that they could titillate the 12-year-olds, 12-year-old boys.
Oh, he said it. Yes.
Yeah. So there you go. 1 Game of Thrones on the nudity and sex, 1 to 1.5 weeks on the violence, and a half a Gordon.
Yeah, that's right.
So there we go. That's the kind of basic kind of info. 2 hours 37 minutes long, so it's longish.
Yep.
And there are basic ratings, but we need to get to the review. And so what we're going to start with is what we liked and didn't like. So what did we like about the film?
It had pretty good CGI.
Oh, I guess, yes, it did, yes.
It was very pretty to
improving
look
every
at.
year, yes. People talked about the cinematography was amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and I laughed a couple of times.
Yeah, there were a couple of good laughs. There were a lot of cringe moments, but there were some good laughs. And there were some fun characters, I've got to say. I think you and I both liked Gilgamesh.
Yep.
He was a fun character. He had some cool lines.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
And we liked the first, what was it called, subcontinental superhero from India.
Yes,
so Kingo.
Kingo, and his valet.
And his valet was a cracker, actually.
Yeah,
I think his valet was my favourite character in the film. I saw that character and I thought, no. But he turned out really good. He really did.
Could have gone either way.
It helped the story, and
it did well.
Certainly it gave it a bit of humanity, which it did at times lack.
Yeah.
Yep. So perhaps we could get onto that, at the things it lacked. I want to say we're getting down to the things we didn't like, and I guess you can tell that it was hard to find things we really liked, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And about the best thing I can say about this movie it was a decent DC film. I know as a DC fan you don't like that, but
harsh.
DC, apart from the Christopher Nolan trilogy, which I call Christopher Nolan rather than DC, they were magnificent films. That Batman trilogy with Nolan, but apart from those, DC has really struggled to make a decent superhero film. And I think this film struggled for all the same reasons that DC struggled, and that's why I call it a decent DC film. It did not do the backstory thing well. It did backstory, but not well, which is what DC's famous for. It didn't connect us to the characters in any real way. You didn't feel connected to them in any real way. It didn't give us a reason to like them or get behind their mission, apart from the fact that the Earth was at stake and human life was at stake, which is true in pretty much every superhero film.
Yeah, that's
and so vanilla. And so I think, in fact, many of the more recent DC films are better. I think Wonder Woman was a better film for sure.
Not the 1984.
No, please no.
But the original one.
But the original Wonder Woman film was. I think the Aquaman film was better. I honestly, probably the I'm going to say it. I think even the non-special version of Justice League was better.
Wow. Okay, that is a big call.
In my opinion.
If anyone that knows you, you would know just how serious, how much they would have to.
Because I think most of those films are pretty lame.
Do not like this movie.
But I didn't mind the original Justice League film. It was, I think the kind of the recut was okay, was decent, but I think this movie was poor. Was poor. I think I'm going to get to more of that a bit later. I've called it He Blues Brothers, but worse, way worse. So we're on a mission from the gods, and that was part of the plot, and I just felt it was not a very good story. I think another thing. No, you go on. You tell me.
I had problems with the characters as well.
Yeah.
For me, it was the fact that these are Eternals. These are thousands of year old beings, and yet the way they acted, the way they thought, the way they did life was like they grew up with me.
They were morally childish.
Yeah.
And you're thinking these characters have been around for thousands of years and they're still as childish as they were. Humanity has grown up. We've had great moral thinkers and actors in the world who've taught us things about life in the world. humanity has adapted and changed and grown, and these characters haven't.
Yeah.
And they just felt childish and one-dimensional, didn't they?
Yeah, for me, like, it's just like they weren't like they're meant to be. You know, I don't know if it's like part god, part human, but for me, there was no god, just only human and dumb humans. As you were saying, like they've had all these years to think about, you know, philosophy or how to act or live well, but they feel like they're still figuring things out.
Yeah.
But like as we're figuring things out,
yeah, it's kind of like Data on Star Trek. You know, that kind of character who's the robot or Spock or something. They're kind of emotionally stunted and they're not really not really relatable.
Yeah, and even I think so.
And they make dumb choices.
Yeah, I think Thena did okay. So that's the one played by Angelina Jolie. I think she's the one that gave closest to having a sense that she was not 30 years old.
You know, I came into the movie wanting to hate Angelina Jolie's character. I thought, no way, Angelina Jolie in a Marvel film, no. Oh, that would just suck so bad, and she'll be awful. I thought she was one of the better ones. I agree with you. I think she turned out. Well, she had a bit of depth to her, though, didn't she? She had things going on for her that actually, we won't reveal them, no spoilers, but she had stuff going on for her that actually, I think, helped her character to develop a little bit in a way that we could relate to. I just think in my mind, if someone's thousands of years old, then they don't act like they were born in the 20th century. They have, like, you know, even if they think that the way that we think today and how we look at life and all that kind of stuff, even if that's the right way to do it, and it's a little bit, I think, a little bit arrogant to suggest that. Yeah. But even if that is, you still, you know, you have a bit of distance. You would have surely learned patience or something where it helps you make these kinds of decisions. Something. But they didn't. They just seemed like regular humans, and there was no, like, I'm like, if they were just, you know, another Avengers, then sure, I can see that. But you're trying to tell me that they're part god in some sense, or at least thousand ancient beings. A little bit, or emissaries of the gods, or something.
Yeah. There's no divineness to them. There's
something greater than.
Something above me.
And that's part of the joke of the movie, isn't it? They're compared to the Avengers and even to DC heroes. That was an interesting part of the film.
Yes.
And it's this kind of mocking thing where we're separate from them, or almost we're better than, or I think this is going to get marks, you know, I think it's going to get high marks from a certain segment of the community simply because it's the most diverse Marvel film yet, and that's what it's been touted as. But even in the reviews, some of those more woke commentators have panned it or have suggested it's a bit slow.
Yeah. And I think, so another thing that I really didn't like is, so again, you mentioned before how, you know, humanity is at stake, and that's every superhero's thing ever. But in this movie, they didn't. Not only did they not give a reason as to why humanity is worth saving, but they give lots of examples why humanity is not
worth saving.
They show past historical events like Hiroshima and I think it was the Inca genocide. Like they show things like that, like horrible, like human beings doing horrible things to each other. But there's none
of the good.
There's no Gandhi. There's no world peace kind of stuff.
I agree. They showed none of the good.
And so you're going like, why are they trying to save us? Like the movie's giving us no good reason to do so.
And they made changes and developments in their character for no given reason. I think that's the thing. What you see with a lot of the Marvel heroes traditionally is them wrestling with their inadequacies and weaknesses and failings. You know, particularly characters like Tony Stark. Part of his complexity is the fact he's wrestling with his selfishness and his and those dark parts of his character, and those his fears in particularly Age of Ultron and onwards that drove him to do terrible things, and learning from those things. And these characters just show none of that kind of an arc to them that you can grab hold of and thing. I think the other issue I had with them is they're a team, right? This is like the Avengers. They're a pre-packaged team. That was one of their problems. The Avengers happened slowly, and they were kind of constructed slowly over several films, and it was only after 3 or 4 or 5 films that you got the Avengers film. Yeah. So what you had, 2 Iron Mans, a Thor, and Captain America. Yeah. Before you had
maybe a Hulk.
Well, if you count Hulk, before you had the Avengers. And so you had lots of build-up. Whereas with this one, the whole team was dumped on you at one moment, and you could not get enough of the backstory and things to fill in.
Which was the mistake that Justice League made.
Yeah, exactly. So, exactly the same mistake that Justice League made. I think the other problem that they had was I'm used to. I don't have a problem with female superheroes, right? Scarlet Witch, fantastic. Wonder Woman, fine. Black Widow, great. All the Wakandans, fantastic. Those characters were great. They had depth through them, but and they would have been fantastic team leaders. Romanov, what's her name? Black Widow, leading Avengers. She often led teams of Avengers, and she was great. But the team leader just did not work. What was her name again? Ajak.
Ajak. Spray and white.
Another one of the gods. But she did not work as the team leader, and that was a deliberate choice of the filmmakers because the original Ajak was male, and they changed it to be a woman.
This is the one played by Salma Hayek.
Salma Hayek, yes. Yeah. But it didn't work because of it was the team medic. She was the team medic. Her big superhero skill was self-healing and healing others. And she didn't lead the team as a team. She didn't go into battle with them. She stood around and she hugged people and she was the kind of team counselor. And it just did not work as a kind of she's not that Captain America or Black Widow figure who can lead the team into battle. And so for me, it just clanged as a character leading a team. I don't know about you, but
like I can see that there's that sense that she doesn't lead by example, and she doesn't rally. For me, it wasn't. She didn't rally anyone. She didn't make me believe in her in terms of I see your goal, I see your vision. Let's go do it. She just kind of hoped that people were on board, and when people questioned, she just went, "You just got to trust me." And I think, to be fair, to some degree, I think that whether or not that works, we think it wouldn't work, but maybe it does.
Well, it didn't work here. I think would be my point. It just didn't. It did not work.
So I mean, like in real life, like if that was if there was a real Celestial, a real Eternals team, would that really work?
Sorry for laughing at you, Ryan. But if the Eternals were really real,
I'm a real boy. Okay?
We could hope that they weren't, because they were pretty poor. They were pretty poor.
That's the thing. But like, I think if there was some sort of SEALs team or something like that, and the leader of that SEALs team was the medic, and only just went. It doesn't go. Not only does it go, I'm not going to go into battle with you, or it does. And doesn't go. Here's the plan. It's just I need you to figure it out yourself out and hope that you come around, and otherwise.
For those understanding or interested in the martial arts, there was no strategic or tactical team leadership, really. There was only, I guess, family connection is what was provided by the team medic. So I just found that just doesn't work for a team that's got to go into battle. And it was a struggle through the film, and you could even see the characters themselves, I think, struggling with it.
So I think that's our basic.
They're our basic comments. Yes. Can you? The challenge for the audience is, can you find the Bible verse?
Oh yes, that's a classic.
And as a Christian, I resent the Bible being co-opted in such a lame way in such a poor film. But it was there, so you can hunt for that one.
It's like a little Easter egg.
Yes. Well, all the characters are named after different pagan deities of Greek and Persian and Babylonian and other varieties. But yes, there is a Bible verse there. But that brings us to, I think, a key question that the movie poses. So there are our comments on the film and the plot and the characters and that sort of thing. But there was something bigger going on with the story and the story it was trying to tell, and it raised a question for us: the Eternals and their celestial masters, because they were serving a celestial master who'd created them.
The Celestials are kind of like the Marvel Universe gods.
They're the gods. They're the gods who've been there since the creation. They take the names of many long-forgotten pagan gods, and it raises the question: do the gods really care about us? And it's a serious question. Many of us have given up on the gods. We don't particularly care about the gods or God, and so we can't be disappointed by them. We can only be disappointed by life itself, where we're not into that sort of stuff. But others of us are invested in the gods. We are invested in the idea that there is a god or gods there who, and we want to know that they do care about us. And so it is a live question the movie raises.
Yeah, and again, without going too much into spoiler territory, the movie I think does answer it, but I just don't think it's a very, they don't answer it very well.
No, they don't answer it very well.
when you look at the gods of this universe, you just go, well, I don't know, or maybe not. Like, yeah, they seem distant and fallible. Like,
or perhaps you could say the pagan gods don't satisfy. There's kind of a move in the modern world to dredge back up, go back to the past and dredge up some of these pagan gods that have been long forgotten, like Ajax and Athena and
Ajax brain wipe.
Yeah. There's this move to neo-paganism to dredge these things up, but I think actually this is where the movie does well, because it portrays the ambivalence of the gods towards us and how these gods were well forgotten by the world. They didn't do us good. And, some of the characters here, Gilgamesh and Kingo. Gilgamesh is a human hero. Kingo is a consort of the god Tiamat, who's another character in the film, albeit kind of tangentially. They were Babylonian gods, and you can see them in the Babylonian epics. The Babylonian creation epic is called the Numer Elish, and the story there is terrible. Like it's these two gods have sex to cradle these other gods. These other gods get all unruly, so they decide. The daddy god decides to kill them, and the kids gang up and assassinate the daddy god. So the mummy god gets a lover who decides to go against those gods, and so they kind of grab this other god and put him up against their mum, and he proceeds to kill her and chop her in half and create the heavens and the earth. And then he decides to create humanity from his blood. Why? Just so the gods can be served. They don't particularly care about humans. We're just kind of detritus and leftovers, and they're ambivalent towards us, and it's a bizarre thing to think about. Yeah. Right? And so I think in some ways the Eternals they do communicate that a little bit, that the gods actually don't really care about us in a way. Yeah, that they've got their own agenda. Yeah. Or that they have their own motives. And sometimes those agendas and motives are unclear. Yeah. Because they don't tell us outright, or they have some ulterior motive that they're trying to pretend to go for. And they're fickle and emotional, and emotionally stunted, morally stunted. Particularly the Eternals, and they're the representatives of the gods, and the gods themselves as well. Though they don't, and so it raises that question. It doesn't really answer it. Do the gods care? But is there a God who could care, who could connect with us, and who could not be us but still care for us? This is one of the things we struggle with, I think, with this conception of God, because a God, in a sense, is someone other than us or transcendent or above us, but we want a connection with them, and so we invent these heroes or gods who are like us. But is there a God who is different from us but still can connect with us and care about us? And it's a really key question the movie raises, I think. Yeah. But doesn't really answer. Not well, at least. Yeah. But we think there is. Yeah, the donkeys do think that there is a God who does care. The Christian God is different, don't they? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So perhaps we could review him. We could review The Chosen. That's the Christian version. Yeah. Yes, we'll avoid Monty Python films and go for The Chosen TV series. From what I hear of that series, is actually a pretty good representation of Jesus, anyway. Who is purports to be the God who connects with us and cares about us. And so I think that would be an interesting and different picture to put up against one another at some point, to look at the Eternals and then look at this figure, Jesus, and go, how do they compare? Yeah. I think that'd be really interesting. Yeah. But for now, I think let's do our personal scores out of 10. Sano, okay. Give me yours. Do you really want mine first? Yeah. My rating has changed, but it's only got worse over the last since we watched the movie. I've given it a 2.5 out of 10. So yes, it's important to know it's not out of 5, it's out of 10, 2.5. Yep. It is the new worst modern Marvel film. It's now the new low-bar modern Marvel films, or it's a mid-bar DC film. It's a decent DC film. Yeah. Well, I think if you can switch off your brain and just be distracted by all the pretty lights, if you can do that, then maybe it's about a 4. Right. But if you can't, if you actually want to pay attention to the movie and try and respect it, then it becomes a 3 real quick. Yeah. Maybe even worse than that. But I'm going to be nice. I'm going to say a 3. Okay, right. So it's time for us to say goodbye. Thanks very much for joining us on this epic journey through the Eternals. I can't say that we've thoroughly enjoyed it. But you've got a review there, and you might want to go and see it now and check it out for yourself. If you've got a movie you think you'd love the donkeys to watch and review, leave it in the chat and we'll see what we can do about that. But for now, we'll see you later.